If you're going away for a short break, or maybe you're a little bit busy and you're looking for an auto feeder that is effective, robust and reliable, then I think this Eheim has to be one that you're going to consider. It's really, really good. I've used a few auto feeders, and at the ones at the lower end of the price point will do the job, but you do run into issues with them. For example, some trap food, which means it can't get out properly. Others retain a bit of moisture, which taints the food. But when you lift this Eheim out of the box, right away you feel like you've got an item of quality in your hand. If I balance it on my hand like this, you can see that the counterweight ensures that it doesn't tip over, so you've got no worries about it dropping into your tank. That's if you're going to place it on the lid, but you've also got the side mounting clip, which does a pretty decent job, holds it in place. If we are going to place it on the lid, we have no worries about it getting scratched with these foam feet at the bottom. And this is where we'll also find the release clip. That's going to uncover where the batteries go. Takes 2 AA batteries. There's a wee sticker to show you which way round it goes, and this is also where we find the fan. We can activate it by hitting the manual feed button, and that is the integrated ventilation system to ensure that the food stays dry. It activates at every feeding cycle and does a really, really good job. It really works. Before we replace the end cap, that's where we can see the counterweight that stops it tipping over. Then we can have a look at the side mount, which is basically a screw type clip which tightens to the side of the glass. That then attaches to the bottom of the feeder using these Velcro strips. And I've just noticed out the corner of my eye there, within the packaging, they actually give you the batteries with it. Didn't need to use my own there, that's a nice wee touch. Setting it up couldn't really be any easier. You have 3 buttons: mode, plus and set. The set button allows us to change our selection. The plus obviously moves it on, and then mode moves it from one selection to another. So we're going to set the time, which is in 24-hour clock. Once we've got that right, we use the set button to confirm our selection. So now mode moves it on to number 1, which is our first feeding of 4 that we can do. We want to set that, we'll say 8 o'clock. What we also need to do though is tell it how many times we want the drum to rotate. Simply having the 1 there doesn't do anything. So if we hit our plus button, the wee arrow comes up that tells us it's going to spin once. And if we hit it again, it's going to spin twice. That means with 4 times that can each spin drum twice, we get a total of 8 rotations of the drum per day. You'll see in a moment that can be just a very small amount of food, or more than anybody is going to want and need. So we're going to set this up for a second feeding. This time in the afternoon, we'll call it 4:05. Once we've got that, we'll hit mode to move it onto the feeding, and we'll say we're going to do 2 spins of the drum this time. So hit the plus button till you've got 2 of them, hit set, and it's locked in. We have the option of a further 2 timed feedings, but I don't want that, so I'll get it back to the clock, and that's it set. The drum comes off very, very easily just by sliding off, and it holds 100 millilitres or 3.3 fluid ounces, which is quite a lot. Just pull that off with your thumb. Then I've got this Tetracolour Flakes 55-gram tub. It's a full tub and it almost takes it all. Just a wee bit left in the bottom there, so you can get quite a lot of food in there, as you can see. That said, I don't only want to give one type of food to my fish, I want to make sure I mix it up a bit. So we're going to use some of those Tetracolour Flakes. We're also going to add some New Life Spectrum. That likes to sink to the bottom for the bottom feeders. We're going to add some flake, and some of the bigger flake you might need to crush with your fingers a wee bit, just to make sure the bigger flakes don't get stuck. I'm also wanting to add some algae wafers, so I'm going to make sure I snap them up into smaller pieces and drop those in. And once we've got our food all mixed up, we can think about adding it to our drum, but we need to be careful here. If I bring the drum over, I can show you we need to make sure that the slider is closed when we put the food in, otherwise it's just going to tip out onto your table. But once you're sure that that is shut over, we can pour the food in, give it a wee mix up there first. And there we go, look, that's not even half the hopper there, so we're going to add a wee bit more. I'm going to go with some more Tetracolour, a few more flakes, and I'm going to break up some of these fluval bug bites, the Pleco formula, and add them in as well. I'm not going to worry about mixing it up too much because it's going to be mixed around every time the drum spins anyway. And I'm using this combination of foods because it's a community tank. Obviously you're going to put the food in that you need for your fish, but it does need to be dry, obviously. With that done, we just need to replace the top and slide it back onto the motor. Easy peasy. There's one thing left to do, and that's decide how much food we want to feed. So now we go back to our slider, which opens in increments, and we'll start with the second smallest one. Hit the manual feed button on the top, and that's going to show us exactly how much food is going to tip out. Now to me, that's a decent feeding just for one rotation. Remember, we can do 2 rotations at a time, and look how far the slider opens. With the fish I keep though, I don't ever see a time that I'm going to need it fully opened up and 2 rotations on each serving, to be honest with you. The amount of food I've got in there should last me the week that I'm going away here. So all that's left to do now is to stick it on the top of the tank and see how it gets on. Look at those nosy platties there, they were straight up to it. Look, I don't know if they smelled the food or what, but they know what's up. The buttons are splash proof apparently, and you get a warning light when your batteries are running low, although that still gives you a further 3 days once you've seen it. That should give you a fairly bit of confidence, but this is me returned from my trip after a week. All the food has been emptied out, there's none left behind. A few crumbs as you would expect, but no moisture there. It's clearly done its job. It's not the cheapest auto feeder, it's not the dearest either, but to me, you get what you pay for. And to me, that's a really, really good auto feeder that you can go away, not worry about, does its job, and you're going to be happy with.